equivalent.
school. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The virtual equivalent.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, folks. It's 11:02. We've got people still filtering in, but I think we'll kick off anyway, and they can catch up as we go along. I see a couple of new faces in the group, so let's do a quickie round of introductions. If there's anything more that you want to add about yourself or your work, feel free to put that in the chat. I'm Joanne Zigmund from Old Colony Planning Council. So I am managing this food action plan for Plymouth County on behalf of Plymouth County, Marion Institute, and Old Colony Planning Council. We're in it together. Welcome to this meeting. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Bill, who's on here as well. Bill?
Hi, I'm Bill Napolitano. I'm a Resilience and Sustainability Planner with OCPC, and I'm working with Joanne.
Yep. And I see we have Mary, our Exec Director. Mary?
So I am not working with either one of them because they do this on their own, but just want to say thank you to all of you. This is a great project and listening in and look forward to seeing the great work that's being done. Thank you, Joanne and Bill from OCPC.
Thanks, Mary. Frank, over at the county.
Frank Basler, Plymouth County Administrator, and been excited and working on this project. Happy to be here. Missed the last meeting due to pre-planned vacation plans, but very excited to be back.
And Rita from the Marion Institute.
Yes, Rita Higgins with the Marion Institute. My focus is food access and innovation, and at the moment I'm doing most of the work on these CARET assessments that we're doing in each county. And so I'll be working on facilitating the meeting that's after this for the Community Advisory Board.
Great, thank you. And I'm just going to go in random order on my screen here. Hampton, welcome. Oh, Hampton, can you hear us?
Hi, I'm Hampton.
There we go.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Hampton Watkins. I'm a resident of Plymouth, and I've worked on other MVP projects with OCPC, and I look forward to continuing work on this in the coming months.
Thanks, Hampton. Karen?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Karen Barry, and I work for the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office and involved from the perspective of the work that we could do collaboratively through the Plymouth County Farm.
Liz Shea?
Hi, I'm Liz Shea. I'm the Abington Town Planner, and I think Kevin Cogan has jumped on. He's our Deputy Town Planner, and the two of us are in phase 2 of an MVP 2.0 pilot project where we're doing remote gardens. We have a garden, community garden, kind of in the center of town that gets a lot of use, but we're trying to do some like remote gardens for people that it's hard to get to the center garden. So we're doing one at a senior center and one at not at the senior center, sorry, at senior housing, and we're doing another one in a park. So we're just kind of along for the ride here and maybe have an exchange of information of what you guys are doing, you know, what you could help us out with, because it's all new to us too.
Awesome. Welcome, Liz. Kevin, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Cogan. I'm the Deputy Town Planner. Liz Shea gave an introduction to my being here on the meeting, but happy to be here.
Welcome. Rob?
Hi, I'm Rob May. I'm Director of Planning and Economic Development for the City of Brockton for another 10 days, I think, and at which I'll retire, but I'll still want to stay involved with the project. As the largest city in Southeast Mass, Brockton has been looking into how it can play a better role. We've authored a urban agriculture plan and are trying to convert that into zoning and into policy here at the city. It can be always challenging, but we have a large number of food manufacturers in the city because of our availability of water. and workforce. And we hope to be able to translate that into action with the local farming community, as we can look at their production and how do we add value to the product to make more money for both the local farmers and to keep that in our economy.
Thanks, Rob. I'm going to pass it to Rob's partner in crime, John.
Which one?
Everybody. Yeah,
Ah,
no,
the Brockton
I
one
must have
first.
clicked Rob's link. So my name is actually John Fay, rhymes but not the same. And I am the senior planner here in Brockton. I think I will be filling Rob's shoes when he leaves, at least temporarily. And he covered a lot of the reasons why Brockton is happy to be involved in this. And yeah, I just want to second all that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And our other Brockton folk on is John from Brockton Farmers Market. Hello, John.
Hi, Joanne and everybody. I'm John Van Kuiken. I manage the Brockton Farmers Market through the end of this season. So I've been helping customers in the area get access to local healthy food for the past 10 years.
Thanks, John. And Charlie Brandon.
I'm from the Boys and Girls Club of Metro South. I am their urban farm director, so I oversee, I'm so sorry, it's a little loud in here. I oversee our hydroponic farms at each of our locations and our food rescue and food distribution program.
Awesome, welcome, Charlie. Great to have you on board. Molly. Oh, Molly, I can't hear you. Although you look unmuted, so I'm not sure why we can't hear you. Still can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. Welcome, Molly. Frank, do you want to introduce Molly? Because I forget the details of exactly what Molly does and I don't want to undersell.
Sure, Molly.
Oh, wait,
yeah,
I can hear you,
go,
Molly.
Molly.
Yep, you're good. Welcome.
Sorry, guys. Thank you for that. Yes, I am part of the Plymouth County team. I serve as the extension director here for the County of Plymouth, work closely with the 4-H program, all things agriculture, and get excited about anything community-based. So thanks. Looking forward to the rest of the meeting and planning for this project.
Awesome. Welcome, Molly. Marisol?
Hi, good morning. Marisol Torres. I am the program director for the BAMC Helpline.
Oh, nice. Welcome. Nikki?
Hi, sorry for jumping in late. I'm Nikki Galabois. I'm the Director of Planning and Development at South Shore Community Action Council.
Welcome, Nikki. Judith?
My name is Judith Henze. I am a food system transformation expert from Germany.
Welcome. Liz Miller from Spoonfuls.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Hi. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in transit, so I'm not turning on my
no
video.
worries.
But, very happy to be here. My name is Liz Miller. I'm the Senior Community Relations Manager at Spoonfuls. I know a handful of the folks on this call. You might know Spoonfuls as Lovin' Spoonfuls, but we're Spoonfuls now. We're a food recovery organization, and we are actively expanding the reach of our work. So we actually launched a new route this week in covering parts of Brockton, Bridgewater, and then sort of more into Bristol County, Fall River, New Bedford areas. And we're excited to plan for another truck coming online next year and hoping we can support more of Plymouth County through that work. So that means us moving more recovered food through the region. And so I'm very excited to just kind of learn what's going on this project and connect with folks. And I'll put my name and my email in the chat too, if anybody wants to learn more from me directly, because that's what I'm here for. So happy to connect with folks like after, outside of this meeting, if you want to learn more. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. Welcome. Liz Wiley.
Hey, everyone. I'm Liz Wiley from the Marion Institute and excited to be with you all. Thank you.
So in wonderful Zoom fashion, the names keep skipping around on my list. So who have I missed? Have I gotten everybody?
I just jumped in a little bit late. I'm Meg Riley. I'm the agricultural extension educator for Plymouth County. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg. And Carrie.
Yes, hi. I'm a former educator turned professional volunteer and very passionate advocate for all things climate and environment and local food.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Anybody else that I missed? No? Great. Welcome, everybody. It's such a great group, and it's wonderful to see new faces joining us as well. I think we're going to get a lot more of that as we move forward in our project over the next several months. Is somebody getting feedback? You guys okay? Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, cool. So cool. Okay, so you can see the agenda on the screen today. We are going to provide you guys with an update from the Community Advisory Board meeting that we had last month. And we can talk a little bit for folks that are new, we can tell you a little bit about the distinction between this group and the group that meets right after. We'll update you all on the RFP process for additional consulting services that has been ongoing since our last meeting. And then we'll talk about more about public participation and stakeholder engagement following on from the meeting that we had last month. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps. We do have a survey that pops up on your screen at the end of this meeting. We got some really good feedback from folks at our last month's meeting. So if you can take a couple minutes at the end to just fill that out, that really helps us try and improve meetings as we go forward. So just keep an eye on that. Does that agenda sound okay? Is there anything else that anybody wanted to add or talk about? No? Okay, super. So this is a meeting of the steering committee. The project that we're working on, the end goal is to develop a food action plan for Plymouth County. More information is available on our website. Frank, I don't know if you can pop that link into the chat for me. That would be great. The process is very participatory and we're still at kind of the beginning part of it. So the next sort of month or two is really still trying to kind of find our feet and figure out exactly what we want to do. And then we'll start getting into kind of like the meat of everything. So the steering committee, you guys on here today, are going to help us with that process. Once we get the additional consultants on board, they'll be reporting to you guys in this group. Anything that gets put out publicly will get like a draft plan in the future. We'll go through this group for your participation and feedback into that process. And you'll help us kind of figure out really how we should engage folks across the region. That's probably the most important role of the steering committee. There are a lot of people we need to talk to, a lot of people we need to involve, and figuring out the who and how is challenging. So that's really where we need your help. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Rita to talk a little bit about how the Community Advisory Board is different and how their progress from last month has so far moved forward.
Yes, thank you. So the Community Advisory Board that we've put together is specifically brought together to conduct a CARET assessment, which is the Community and Agriculture Resilience Audit Tool, which I think many of you now have probably heard us talk about a couple times, and many of you are also on the Community Advisory Board. We are working through all 7 themes of the CARET tool, and the idea is that the Community Advisory Board is helping us identify assets in Plymouth County related to each of the themes. And those themes are broken down into indicators. So there's individual indicators within the themes. And we'll be going through each theme. We'll be identifying the resources that are in Plymouth County. We'll be sort of fact checking those and making sure that what came out in the Community Advisory Board meetings, that those programs and policies projects, which is a focus of practices of the CARET, they exist, we'll name them, and then we'll be coming back together at the end once we've gone through each of the themes to assign a score. And the CARET has their own scoring system, and that score is going to provide us with a baseline resilience score for the county, and one that we can come back to, and really emphasizing that the CARET process is iterative, and we're working to include as many voices as possible now and keep bringing people in as we get the word out, as more people hear about it. So we have had 2 Community Advisory Board meetings so far. And both of them actually focused on theme one. Theme one is about natural resource management, protection of ecosystems and farmland. And it is one of the biggest themes. And I think even within Plymouth County, it took us 2 sessions because there are quite a few resources. So we had a lot of information, we had some great conversation, and we've got a big list of policies, programs, practices that now we're going to go back through, and Joanne and I will be talking about how to make sure everyone has access to see what came out of the meetings. The recordings are available, transcripts are available, and then the spreadsheet that we've been working in will be available so everyone can have a look through it. Joanne and I discussed that going forward, because people are, while we encourage everyone who's interested generally to come to any of the themes, some of them are quite specific, and people might want to attend ones where they feel they have more expertise. Again, we welcome everyone to attend, and even if you're just there to listen, but that so that people can use their time wisely and fit things into their schedule. Instead of, if we don't finish a theme in the future, we will most likely bump that to an additional meeting so that each date that we have in the calendar will be a specific theme. We'll stick to that theme. If we don't finish, we'll let everyone know when we're going to come back to that theme. And there might be a couple themes where we have a few indicators we didn't get to. That might be just sort of a sort of overflow meeting at some point. So.
Thanks, Rita. So the Community Advisory Board and their work going through the carrot and the indicators is going to feed into the action plan that we develop by the end of June of 2026. So we do have an RFP, and I'm going to share my screen so I can give you a little bit of a better sense of what this project looks like. So the part that Rita was talking about is here. This is the Community Advisory Board and their work on the carrot tool. The other components of the project that ultimately will lead to the Food System Action Plan rely on additional consultants who are going to really support us in looking at the local food economy and the food system infrastructure that exists. And also based on that information and using the information that we gather from the carrot, as well as the public outreach and the public survey and other participatory methods that we're going to use, they're going to help us identify what the gaps are and what the opportunities are in our region. The RFP has now been out for about a month. The proposals are going to be due, I believe is it Monday or Tuesday, Frank? I can't remember.
Monday, the 29th at noon.
Monday, the 29th, all the proposals will come in, and then Marion Institute, Plymouth County, and OCPC will review those proposals and select the consultant who's going to be working with us. We anticipate that the consultant will begin work by the end of October. So our next meeting in October, I'm hoping we'll be able to introduce you all to that new consultant or team of consultants. They're going to be reporting to us here at the steering committee on a monthly basis. What exactly that looks like, I think, is going to depend on what their proposals contain. If you want to have a look at the RFP, it is a public document. Just reach out to Frank and he can send you a copy of that. This little figure here that I'm showing you is from the RFP. You'll see that it is a little bit vague. We do want them to look at food system infrastructure. We do want them to talk to stakeholders. We do want them to identify gaps and opportunities, but specifically how they go about doing that is going to be largely proposed by them. So at our first meeting, not sure if they'll be ready in October. That just might be like a getting to know you kind of introductory meeting. We'll see how quickly they're ready to hit the ground running, but definitely at the November meeting, we'll be talking about the specifics of what they're going to do and how they're proposing to do it. And they'll be aiming to engage all of you in trying to figure out if that's the right way to go about everything. So there are quite a few moving pieces between the work of the future consultants, the work of the Carrot and the Marion Institute, and then all the other kind of participation stuff that we're going to be doing. There's going to be a lot of bits and pieces to pull in. And I know that you all have a lot of information as well too. So Hampton sent me a really great list of food pantries in the Plymouth area, which is just amazing. It's an amazing resource. We want to gather that for the whole region. I know you all hold a lot of knowledge and expertise that we're going to be, requiring and relying on over the coming months. So that's where we're at with the RFP process. We did follow all state procurement processes and guidelines and laws and things. We've had quite a lot more interest than I really anticipated. We've had quite a few folks from outside of the New England area request the RFP as well too. We'll see who submits proposals, but we've had a lot of interest. So we're excited and we're hopeful that we're going to have, at least a few proposals to choose from. Does anybody have any questions about the RFP or that process? No? Okay, cool. So with that, last month, for those of you all who weren't able to make it, we talked quite a bit about how we're going to engage stakeholders and the general public in this project. And there were a lot of great ideas and a lot of feedback that we shared. It seemed like there was consensus around the need to do focus groups and interviews, definitely. So once we get this additional consultant on board, we'll sit down with them and the Marion Institute and kind of figure out who's going to do what and how many of those focus groups and interviews. But those are definitely going to be a key component of the outreach. We're definitely going to do a region-wide public survey. So that will reach, hopefully, as many people as we possibly can. And we'll use both traditional media outlets as well as, Facebook and other channels and networks to try and get to as many people as we can. We did a regional survey for our regional water plan, like almost 2 years ago now, I think, and we had roughly, I think, about 1,400 replies. So I'm hopeful that we get, similar here, if not more, because we're actually including a lot more communities in this project than we did in that one. But today I thought it would be really good to hear from you guys who you think we need to talk to. So last time we talked about the methods. Focus group, interview, community dinner, whatever. And we talked only a little bit about who those key stakeholders are. So I know we mentioned food pantry coordinators as being super important to talk to as we go through this project. We talked a bit about how to reach folks who have lived experience of food insecurity. I think that's going to be a little bit more of a delicate approach. That we'll be talking more about how best to hear from those folks directly. We talked a smidge about entrepreneurs in the food system and how do we identify them and reach them. They sometimes kind of go under the radar until they, blow up and become successful. So how do we reach those folks? And then we talked about actual growers really needing to be represented as well too. So apart from those 4 groups, do you guys have other thoughts for either individuals, organizations, or just like collective groups of a type of stakeholder that you think we need to engage? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Joanne, I'd like to add in a little bit of info on that too, that Rita and I have experienced with, we've started to launch this in Barnstable County, and it's really been very helpful to, when we talk with people, you're getting definitely different insights and different perspectives, and all helpful. And it's making this tool, the Carrot tool, more useful as with every time we talk with new people about it. So please know that that happens too. And so some of the stuff that's come out of the work that we're doing in Barnstable is that I think we were clear that this Carrot tool was developed by the North American Food System Network in partnership with Indiana University. So very, farmland centric perspective. And what's missing from some of the language is enough inclusive language around fisheries and aquaculture and shellfishing in our region. So I just want to like name that and put that out there to Plymouth because it's something that we're going to do some deeper dive and work with the folks in Barnstable to retweak some of that language that then you'll be seeing, you know, you'll be different for you guys, and we need to circle back on some of that with Plymouth County. But the importance of, you know, we have a lot of more fisheries people that are being more outspoken and raising that as an issue. This is the benefit of having multi-sector stakeholders at the table, right? Because we have our blind spots and we don't see something, and somebody else, another group is on here and can start to say, hey, wait a minute, that's not really including this perspective or this industry or this sector or whatever. So naming it, elevating it, and definitely saying, you know, it's always hard to get the producers, right? The shellfish people, the fisheries, but we really need to make sure that we're doing that. We've always, you know, looked at like, okay, we can look at it as a perspective of doing focus groups with those people, and that's possible, and that is something that we're doing in other places and in Bristol County and stuff. But I do think, you know, making sure that there's somebody that's elevating, and I know Meg's on here, you know, and is elevating farming and food production, but making sure somebody else is on here, fisheries, aquaculture, that's like, hey, this language needs to be tweaked, or it's not clear how to answer it from this industry perspective. Rita, do you want to add to that a little bit? Because I just think these are all that we're learning as we go.
Yeah, and I think that it was a really good reminder that sometimes when we're looking at engagement with different stakeholders in doing this project, that, and just Liz and I were thinking back to how it's worked for us in Bristol, and then even as we've started in Plymouth, and who's interested, who is naturally gravitating towards doing this work, and then who isn't. And thinking about how, you know, I think especially for the fishing industry, what we were told is that they couldn't even really see themselves in the carrot. And so how are they going to participate? And so that maybe some of our experiences with even who's been participating in Bristol, and, you know, Joanne, as we've tried to get some interest from some of the shellfish, some of the fishing industry, is, you know, people might not be engaging because they don't see themselves in the carrot. And so I think that, you know, it's been called out for us in the fishing industry. So we're going to work on that, and that might help us get more people from that industry involved in Plymouth. But that also just really making sure that everyone hears that from the point of view, if there's anyone that is doing this carrot work with us and feels like they're not represented in the carrot, let us know. This is one tool. It's the tool that we have come across that we like, that we see the value in, but it's very much a work in progress. And we're also adapting it to New England, to Massachusetts, to Southeastern Massachusetts. And so if you don't see yourself, you know, we want this tool to work for our region, and we really want to hear about it. So just, you know, really paying attention to the language that's in there. And, you know, I think that can happen within the county. It's obviously happening, you know, with Barnstable having such a strong, small local fishing and commercial fishing industry, it was very apparent. But just throwing that out there. Language really matters, and we want to make sure that we hear about it.
So that's a great observation. Kevin, you had your hand up.
It's not really related to what was just spoken about, but
that's okay. Go ahead.
I feel like translators or pastors, shop owners of maybe I'm just thinking from Abington's perspective, who we included in our conversations with MVP 2.0. We have Brazilian stores, like local Brazilian stores. We included them in the room in the discussions. So, like if they wanted to participate, so, because
no, that's a really good point. I think one of the things across the board at the municipal planning level that we constantly deal with is that you always kind of see the same faces turn up at everything. And oftentimes it's not representative of our broader communities. So culturally, ethnically, racially, age-wise, there are so many other folks that often we don't hear from. And I think that's going to be the real challenge for this project. We have tried to lead from our best ability, really participatory projects in communities like, for example, Brockton, which is very diverse across the board in every which way. And it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard to engage folks for, I think, a number of reasons. Everybody has their own theory why young people, for example, are so hard to get to, or folks whose language isn't English. Even when we provide translation services, nobody participates. I think that's going to be a huge challenge. So, you know, I'm excited that Abington, and I know Easton as well, has gone through the 2.0 process, although they're not with us on our meeting here today. The MVP program is trying to emphasize that. So I think, Kevin, if you and Liz can share maybe a little bit about how you guys managed to reach out to your underrepresented communities. I'm particularly interested in like your Brazilian shop that you were mentioning. How did you guys get those folks involved?
I mean, the Brazilian shops weren't necessarily involved, but we reached out to them and asked them, like, and we gave them flyers and we were good neighbors to them, and they were receptive and welcoming to us coming in and speaking to them. They just never got back to us with surveys. There was a pastor on our MVP 2.0 committee, but he had to step down because of like personal reasons. He had a lot going on at his church. And also for our community gardens, we are we were thinking of having one of the gardens over at one of the churches, Brazilian churches. So yeah, the remote gardens that Liz was talking about earlier. So to include that population, the pastor at that parish has like his own garden that he grows in the back of his church. So we know that there's an interest, maybe. So if he can reach out to his congregation, he seemed interested when we went out and visited him, and he was all excited. So I think it's just a matter of putting in the effort to try and like be on a human level, kind of just connect with them at first, but not expect too much. I think that's the key, is really just not expect too much.
Karen, you had your hand up?
Yes, we are in the process of creating basically like a clergy corps, if you will. So a lot of various priests, clergy members, you know, pretty much going across the whole spectrum, bringing them together for certain trainings. We kind of started that with the Plymouth Drug Abuse Task Force years ago. So the core was kind of there, and they've just recently come back, and there are a number of issues you want to work on. So I think that once we get them together, because it's kind of being built from the inside with the members of the clergy, we could maybe then broach some of this work with them too, and see how we can incorporate people, get their voices, because it'll be various communities. It won't be just one. And the second thought I had on the aquaculture is that I reached out to Joby Norton, who has done some of the processing of our fish for the food pantries. And he sits on the watershed, the North and South River watershed, and he's really connected. So between that and some of the Duxbury farmers for aquaculture, we'll put out some feelers and see if there'll be people who might want to step in to be a voice on the steering committee to help kind of get that perspective and kind of address what you were saying earlier about just kind of have a void there. So I'll let you know what I find out, and I'll keep you posted on when we're having the first clergy core ministry. It's really ministry core meeting.
Yep. That's great. Is that for Plymouth County wide, Karen?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Marisol?
Hi again. I just have a couple of I guess points and questions. With our new administration, we are going to be losing tracking food insecurity in the entire United States. So are we going to be doing how are we handling that? Are we going to be doing surveys? Are we going to be doing what are we going to do to, keep track of where the food insecurity is and how this program could benefit those communities?
Yeah, I think that's a super important question. We've chatted a little bit about this internally, and the consultants that we hire, one of the first things that we have for them to do is to actually evaluate what information is available in our region in general related to food systems at any level. So they'll review the community plans that we have. They'll review, like Hampton's group, for example, in Plymouth, will want to identify groups that are, for example, trying to map or track or promote food pantries in their area, things like that too. So we'll get a really good understanding what's there. But I think that what we're going to find is exactly as you've said, that a lot of the resources that we've traditionally relied on to give us the information that we need may not be there next year or whenever. So I think that's a really good point, and I think that's definitely something we're going to want to address in the action plan, is to figure out what we have and what we need and how we can kind of be self-sufficient in that respect, I think, going forward. Liz, do you have your hand up, or?
Yeah, I just want to comment to a couple of comments. I'm going to try to remember all of the ones that I wanted to comment to. Marisol, I think that's a really important issue that you're raising. And having done our food system assessment in the past, yeah, we do rely somewhat on that USDA data. A lot of the food insecurity data that we also relied on, and I don't know how overlapped they are, came from Feeding America, came from the Greater Boston Food Bank, came from the entities that I think will still double down and try to get that work done because of the importance of it. And this is why food system assessments, regional food system assessments are important, because they are doing it. And it's one of the reasons why Rita and I gravitated towards the carrot as a component of a food system assessment, because it provides the people that are doing the work, that are boots on the ground, the ability to continually own that data, update that data, track that data in a way that traditional food system assessments don't do, right? Like traditional food system assessments are so reliant on that secondary data that they are pulling from other reports. And what we like, and what we're hoping that we'll see with the carrot, is that it's a tool that you can consistently, in between food system assessments that we want to do every 5 years, you're able to update that data. So there's that. And I think that there was I think Kevin, you were talking a little bit about engagement with different populations and in individuals, especially individuals that are experiencing food insecurity, and making sure that they're, how do you get them to fill out surveys and get their voice and get their input? We had, during our 2021 food system assessment, we had nearly 500, I think it was close to 500, definitely over 400 surveys from food insecure individuals that were English was not their first language. And it was because we partnered with the New Bedford Immigrants Assistance Center, and they did the application with their guests and filled those out for them and submitted them to us, which was incredible and really valuable information that we still use all the time. So there are ways of doing some of that stuff too, and keeping that data going. And then the other point that I wanted to make, I think it was Karen, I think, you elevating the individual that you were talking about as a person that should be involved. I think that's the key, is like, and that's certainly the key of what we're seeing and experiencing in Barnstable and even in Bristol County with our carrot work, is that it's going to be really hard to get the shell fishermen at the table or the farmers at the table, but having somebody that works with them all the time and knows what their issues are and can elevate their issues for them, so their spokesperson, or that's really, really helpful. I mean, and then maybe doing like a once off, focus group with the shell fishermen or with the fishermen and stuff. But to try to get them, we've had a really hard time getting that. And go ahead, I can't see your hand. I see Karen's hand.
Yeah, let me go back to Marisol though, because she hadn't finished her thoughts. Oh, you're muted, Marisol, sorry.
Sorry about that. I also wanted to ask about community fridges, because as a Brockton native, right, and my program serves Plymouth County, but mostly Greater Brockton. So I know that community fridges exist, but as far as Brockton, I don't think it was a successful launch when we did try community fridge here. And I'm just wondering if that's something that we are also looking into, like creating more community fridges, more opportunity for people to access food. I know BAMSI has a relationship currently with Spoonfuls on a smaller scale. Like we're getting a small amount of food to a small pantry. We are in the talks now of creating maybe a bigger system, because we have pantries here, but they're on a monthly basis. Some of them are on a 3-month basis. And that's not really sustainable in feeding the community. So BAMSI is in talks now of, well, we're going to create a drop-in center. That's one of the things we're doing. But part of that drop-in center needs to be a weekly food delivery where we can give food out to everyone, low barrier, and get food out to everyone. So we are in the talks of getting that done. But in the meantime, I'm just thinking about how we could get food to everyone. And community fridges do work, right? They do work. It just depends on your community, if they're going to, disrespect the fridges and cause problems with the fridges. But they do work. And we are interested in supporting a community fridge, just maybe not completely knowing how to get there. Also, I wanted to ask about, you said 2.0 training. What is that? What is that?
Yeah. So on your community fridge note, yes, absolutely. So the instructions for the consultants that we're hiring is that we want to look at traditional infrastructure, but we also want to look at all of these new and innovative and kind of micro style solutions as well too. So I know somebody mentioned to me as well, like, I don't know if you've heard of Little Free Libraries. They're little boxes where you can get books and just pick them up, usually in multiple places in a community. Same idea for like canned goods and non-perishables. Can we just have a whole bunch of those in town or something like that? So yeah, absolutely. That's going to be something our consultants look for. On the 2.0 thing, so that is a state grant program. Liz, or I don't know, I think Abington, Liz is still on. Liz, I don't know if you can maybe pop a link into the chat for the 2.0 program, if you could, just so Marisol can get a feel for that. But it's a state grant program, and it's partly funding what we're doing here. And it seeks to build resilience in our communities, especially linked and connected to climate change. I'm going to go over to Nikki. I think Nikki had her hand up.
Yeah, just getting back to the point previously about local data around food insecurity. So community action agencies like South Shore, we're all required to do community needs assessments every 3 years, and we're actually heading into that cycle this fall and spring. And so it's a really kind of timely process. So those of us who, work in the food insecurity area, we'll be gathering a lot of information, first-person information from folks about their experiences with food access, food insecurity, nutrition, things of that sort. And so we'll be collecting that information. We'll be happy to share it. And I think it's it sort of aligns really nicely with what's happening here with this group and other activities. And so there are other community action agencies that are in Plymouth County besides us who are certainly also going through the same process. And so we might be able to pull some of their data together as well. And then also I do know through Beth Israel, I'm on their Community Benefits Advisory Committee. So Beth Israel in Plymouth, they are working on their community health needs assessment and sort of the tail end of that process. And food insecurity has been identified as one of the sort of areas of focus, and particularly looking at social determinants of health. So I think that there's a couple of other data sources that are available at the local level that will sort of help to flesh out what's missing once the USDA data is gone. Certainly not to the same scale, but in some ways, you know, the national data sets never really give us the, you know, the really fine granular data at our small town Plimpton level and things like that. So, you know, so really the local data is very, very helpful. And, you know, we'll be available, assuming that we're all still here come October 1st.
Yeah. That's great, Nikki. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts? Or more broadly, any ideas for who we have to absolutely make sure that we engage?
Really quick, when you say absolutely have to engage, are you talking about person served or people who could help with this?
Either one. I think what we're discovering is because we're talking about food growing all the way up to like food waste and everything along the way, there's anybody, as Rita says, anybody who eats food is kind of involved in our project. And so how do we hear the most from the most people, and who are the ones that we absolutely don't want to miss that have kind of experience or expertise that we really need to incorporate into the plan?
For Brockton, I have to say the Vicente supermarkets.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should absolutely
they're
be
on our
included.
list. Yep.
Great. Because not only do they own supermarkets, they own quite a bit of real estate. So
Yeah.
and they
they're
assist in
also,
all of that.
yeah, we've run quite a few projects in Brockton where they've handed out like survey material to folks in bags and stuff like that too. So they're very community engaged. So they're a great channel. Thank you. John Van Kuiken, you've got your hand up.
And Kaiken, yeah.
Kuiken, sorry, John.
Was just going to mention the Brockton Area Hunger Network Co-op, which is all the food banks in Brockton, has the co-op card that has demographic data for all of the people that use the food pantries in town or in the area. And the farmers market is going to start participating in that next year, or start participating in the tracking as well next year. But there is a large data set that they've collected over the past several years of the co-op card.
Oh, great. John,
Which,
who is the point person for that co-op?
Laura Streese at Charity Guild.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely reach out to them. I know we've reached out to Charity Guild, but we haven't had any response yet, but I'll see who specifically we reached out to. So cool.
Okay.
Other thoughts?
Oh, I was also going to say, if we do have the community tent available at the market, if you want to reach some of the customers directly.
Yeah, definitely. So Carrie and I had a conversation a few weeks ago about farmers markets and how we can use them to reach folks. So I think for this season, which typically I think for most farmers markets kind of ends in October, I'm not sure we're going to make anything happen. But when the new season starts up, then we're absolutely going to use them for sure. Anybody else got any thoughts? We've got a couple minutes left. No? Yeah, please continue to think about this. My goal for the next meeting is we'll hopefully have an introduction from the consultants that we select. But I'll also write up a plan and start putting together a stakeholder list so we can start seeing everything on paper, so we can more easily identify, who's missing and who's not. I think for me too, one of the big groups that I've been thinking about too is younger people and younger families, and how do we engage with them? They're often a really, really challenging group to get in touch with. There might be some opportunity through schools. Parental permission is always an issue if you're talking about folks under 18. But that's another area that we're kind of thinking about. So, keep the wheels turning. Yeah, Carrie, you had a thought?
I did. I was thinking schools. I know that there's an institutional component. There are also homeschool groups, even perhaps to the library.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because those voices will be left out of the more institutional conversations. I also I wanted to mention, I was aware that there was an Indigenous food sovereignty program on Tuesday. I wasn't able to go, but I'm sure somewhere you have Indigenous groups targeted and within the scope of the plan. But I'm also curious, any Indigenous leaders, has there been direct contact with maybe bringing them in to either the CAB or this group?
Yep. So I know that Marian Institute, through their other processes, has engaged a lot. In our area, there's the Herring Pond tribe based in Plymouth. So we've engaged through Melissa Ferretti, their chairwoman, on involving them in this project. I think they're a small group, and I think their time is very limited. So they haven't participated in any meetings, but they are aware, and they are on our list of people to reach out to directly to interview or et cetera. I know that they've had a food project of their own that they've worked on, so we want to make sure that we wrap that in. As far as I'm aware right now, I think that's the only tribe in our county area. But I know Marian Institute, I don't know, Rita, if you want to mention a little bit more broadly about Marian's work with those groups.
Yeah, we have on the South Coast Food Policy Council, we have a representative from Pecasset Pokanoket, and then who is a regular part of our work group meetings and contributed to our carrot assessment in Bristol. And then we also have, is it Liz? I think there's Herring Pond as well on the South Coast Food Policy Council now. They're a little bit newer.
We worked closely with the Aquina chairwoman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, absolutely having their participation is critical. And again, I think Joanne, you've made a really good point about timing the amount of time, the capacity, and definitely Nate Irwin, who was our representative from the Pecasset Pokanoket, said that there's a lot of organizations that are trying to get their attention and trying to get their input, and they just have to really be able to have the capacity to do that, and so pick and choose the projects that they can participate in. So I think again, this is something that I think of the work that we're doing with the carrot and also this food systems work is, doing our best and just keep bringing people in when they're ready, and when they have the capacity, and that the door, even if we were to go and score Plymouth County next week, that for us, this carrot assessment in particular is one that is meant to be really looping back. It's not linear. It doesn't end really. So
yeah, thanks, Rita. Super. So we're going to wrap up the meeting today. This has all been hugely helpful, everybody. We've made a lot of notes here. All our recordings of meetings, as well as minutes and agenda, are all on our website. The link that Frank posted when we began is in the chat. We are going to stick to the same schedule. So our next meeting of the steering committee is going to be on Wednesday, October 29th. 11 to just before noon. And right after today's meeting, we do have the Community Advisory Board meeting, which is focusing on health and wellness indicators related to the food system. So I'm going to pop that link into the chat right now. If anybody does want to join, that's going to start at noon, so in a few minutes. If in the meantime you guys have additional thoughts, feel free to send them to me or Rita or Liz or Frank, and we'll make sure that we'll put them down on paper. I'm also planning on getting some outreach materials over to you guys in the coming weeks so that when you're talking to people and letting them know about what's happening in the county with this food plan, you'll have some materials to rely on for them. Because as Rita said, I think as we go along, especially over the next few months up through Christmas, I think that we're going to get a lot more folks becoming more interested and wanting to join. So that's the hope. Anybody have any final thoughts that they want to share? No? Good to go? Awesome. All right. Thank you everybody very much for your time today. Bye-bye.